Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure, honor, and privilege to invite our guest of honor, Mr. Heng Swee Keat, Minister for Education, Singapore, to deliver his opening address. Minister Heng, please.
Members of the organizing committee, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here this morning to join all of you in this conference on education innovation. Dr. Ninat mentioned about me staying back to hear the keynote speaker. Well, the keynote speaker is going to speak on how the brain works, and my brain is not working very well, so I thought, maybe I should stay back and listen. Now, let me warmly welcome once again the delegates from Southeast Asia as well as from our region. This Association of Southeast Asian Institutes of Higher Learning is a good platform for exchange of ideas and for our universities to get together to see how we can promote teaching and learning better. So I hope that to all our delegates that your stay here will be productive and meaningful. Now let me share a story that a senior official in one of our countries in the region told me. He told me that a private educational provider in his country has used this very catchy slogan, and it goes like this: "You are not a genius, ouch, but your child can be a genius, wow." Yeah. Now, the first part, you are not a genius, I think applies to 99% of people by definition. And the second, your child can be a genius, surely appeals to 99.99% of our people. Which parent does not want the best for his child? So this official was quite troubled by the claim made by this provider because there was no evidence for the claim. So I suppose he deserves an award for innovation in marketing, not an innovation in education. But seriously, education innovation is critical to help our people realize their potential. We must strive to find better ways to help people learn. But education innovation is difficult. Education innovation is challenging. Because in essence, teaching and learning are complex human processes. And to even understand it, much less to make advances on it, requires many disciplines. And we are learning more every day about how people learn, and new technology opens up new possibilities. New research findings also opens up new possibilities. But however challenging innovation in education is, I believe we can and we must try to make breakthroughs and do it right. So let me share 3 thoughts about practices in education innovation. First, dare to try. We must dare to pilot new approaches, stay open to new possibilities, to new technologies, and new evidence of how people learn. Second, base our practices on rigorous research and evidence. It is easy to make claims, but I think we must base it on rigorous research and evidence. And third, integrate good practices and research findings into effective, coherent pedagogies. Integrate the art and science of learning. And the key words are integrated and coherent, not bits and pieces, ideas here and there that don't add up much. So let me speak on each of this. The first practice of being open to new ideas, open to new approaches. Now, one stream of new ideas in recent years has been the use of ICT in learning. And in the Ministry of Education, we've been doing it for over 15 years now with successive versions of our ICT master plan. And as we follow the developments, I think new possibilities are opening up. And I've been following the experiments and the new approaches. And some of these are promising. For instance, in the whole area of ICT-enabled or e-learning, One prominent area, of course, is, and which there's been a lot of interest, is in MOOCs, or the massive online courses. But e-learning is much richer and extends to many other areas. Let me just list 4 of them. E-learning potentially enables personalized learning, enabling students to learn at their own pace, anytime, anywhere. The second area is that complex topics and lectures can be condensed into bite-sized modules, optimized for students' learning abilities and attention spans. And third, teachers can better do assessments for learning, or what educators call formative assessment, and provide real-time feedback. And that real-time feedback loop in turn enriches the learning. And fourth, we could potentially do adaptive testing, testing students according to how much they have grasped the subject. And of course, online learning can also enable us to do flipped classrooms. And again, that then opens up new areas such as self-directed learning, team-based learning, collaborative learning, and so on and so forth. But as one of our keynote speakers, Dr. Rosette, points out, I think we're just at the beginning to understand the potential of technology in education innovation, and new opportunities lie ahead. So we need to try. Some of the early promises of certain technology has not quite worked out. I think some claims, I would say, are excessive, but some are promising. And I think the challenge is to find the right approach and to try and evaluate which might work and which might not work. But opening ourselves to new ideas is not just about technology. I think, and not just about e-learning. I think beyond e-learning, for instance, technologies like 3D printing allow students to do prototyping. And some of our schools are beginning to try that. Technology allows us to do things like the programming of robots. And that brings subject alive for many students. And I've seen some of our students, including those in the primary schools, doing programming using robots, and they learn a lot in the process. But it is also not about just being open to ideas in technology alone, but just opening ourselves up to new ideas. And one of our teachers, Dr. Nasir, has been using an approach to get students to make toys as part of the teaching and learning. And that was because he had come to the NIE to do his PhD on effective learning. And he found that effective learning takes place when the subject matter is both relevant and personal to the learner. And by making it personal and relevant, it motivates students to learn in new and interesting ways. So this then brings me to my second point on education innovation, that our practice must be informed by rigorous, reliable research. And a promising area of research is in understanding how the brain learns. The neurosciences of learning, and more broadly, the subject of learning sciences. And we have another keynote speaker here, Dr. Souza. And he has described learning as a way of changing the physical brain. And teachers are literally brain changers, changing the shape of the brain. Because when the effective learning changes the way that the brain is physically wired, and it creates new connections in the brain or reinforces old ones. So for example, the brain makes meaning through connecting new information with past experiences. Now I noticed that our good teachers in the schools begin with activities that tap into the prior knowledge of the students. And the more students can then connect the new information with what they already know on the topic, the better they can absorb and make sense of the new information. Now the other interesting area of brain research is that physical activities, music, arts, are all important for brain development. So I'm glad that in the last few years, the ministry has been investing in these programs in our schools. And in fact, we are now in the midst of rebuilding and adding new facilities in all our primary schools in order that we can do PE, music, and arts for all our students. Now let me now move on to a third practice of education innovation, and that is we need to integrate good practices and research findings into effective, coherent pedagogies, effective, coherent strategies. Now, it's always tempting to find a magic solution or a shortcut, one silver bullet that can solve all problems. But I think the nature of learning and the nature of teaching is complex, and I don't think there is one approach, one way of doing it. And here, school leaders and teachers instinctively understand that teaching is both an art and a science. The real magic is in weaving and integrating all the various aspects of teaching and learning, be it the physical aspects, the cognitive aspects, and the social-emotional aspects. And in many areas, in how you put this together and how we motivate the students, how we create new possibilities for the students to learn. And that's why I tell our teachers and school leaders and our lecturers in the universities, whatever the technology, they will not be replaced. It is good teachers will be eventually the masters of the technology. They will not be the ones to be replaced by the technology. So let me now share some of the things that we are doing in Singapore. We have been pursuing education innovation in various areas. More recently, Canberra Primary School, in Canberra Primary School, a group of students used an ICT game, Prey and Predator. It's a cute game where students role-play either a prey or a predator in a jungle. So they learn how animals adapt to survive, be it by working in a group or using camouflage. Now, what is interesting about this is not just the game itself, but how other schools are using the same game, but now not to teach science, but to teach something else, to teach values, to teach teamwork, to teach conservation, to teach cyber wellness. And I think it shows the creativity of teachers in using the same approach, but in different contexts and for different learning objectives. And I think the more integrated a view we have of how students learn, the more effectively we can do this. Now, NIE has been working on a project to improve the working memory capacity of students in learning support program in mathematics. And again, the results are promising. The teachers in our schools do action research to pilot and evaluate new ways of teaching. And each year, we showcase this and other innovation at our annual innovation festival, which we call the ASAIHL Festival. And in the learning of sciences, we have been trying out inquiry-based approaches. And in the learning of languages, we've been trying out the use of big books. Also, the use of learning portals for the learning of mother tongue languages. Now, I'm very happy that our universities and our institutes of higher learning are also doing a lot in these different areas, in our institutes of technical education, in our polytechnics. And more recently, we are looking at how we can do applied learning more effectively. Now, our universities, for instance, are experimenting with online courses and blended learning, and Professor Ming Hua outlined quite a number of things that NTU itself is doing. The Professor Lee Sin Kong was director of NIE before, was also doing a lot of research on how students learn. And the NTU Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine uses interactive 3D images of full body anatomy to teach anatomy in a different way. And in NUS, Duke NUS uses the flipped classroom to promote team-based learnings. So all of these are good examples, but we can and we need to do more. We need to continue learning how to learn. So Professor mentioned about the NTU Center for Research and Development in Learning, or CREDA, which seeks to better understand how to educate students for the 21st century. Now, NUS was recently awarded a grant for a project called the Mindful Students. And the final aim of this project is to develop a guidebook for students, teaching them to understand how their brain works and learn how to learn. Now, all these initiatives and projects are a good start, and we must continue. To support education innovations, I will set up a tertiary education research fund of $10 million to fund research on innovative teaching and learning in our polytechnics, ITEs, and universities. These funds will be available on a competitive basis to all our researchers in our institutes of higher learning. And through this fund, I hope to signal and encourage our IHLs to continue to innovate and to continue to undertake rigorous research. Today, MOE funds research targeted at the school level, primary school, secondary school. Now, this new tertiary education research fund is targeted at promoting research on teaching and learning at the higher education levels. With the introduction of the Tertiary Research Education Fund, MOE will be promoting innovation and research on teaching and learning across all levels of education, from pre-primary to tertiary. By learning about learning, by trying new ways, by rigorous evaluation and integrating promising approaches into a coherent whole, we can make meaningful education innovation. In that way, our students can get the best possible education all the way from preschool to the tertiary levels. So in summary, I've spoken about how education innovation is challenging, that it is difficult, but why at the same time it is important. I mentioned about the 3 practices of education innovation, that we must dare to try. We must be rigorous in our research and evaluation, and we must put all these good practices and evidence together into a coherent whole. So the Tertiary Education Research Fund will complement what we are doing at the school level, and I hope that even more research and innovation can take place. Now, a conference like this provides valuable opportunities for educators from all over the world and from the region to come together to share ideas, and I hope that you will have a fruitful and enjoyable conference. Thank you very much.